Hey guys, Andrew McFarland here from StartAJuiceBar.com. Hope you guys are happy and healthy. Today we are talking about why 80% of restaurants fail within the first 5 years. But before I dive into that, you guys are new to the channel, you don't know who I am or what we do. Over the last 13 years, myself and our company has had the pleasure of running our own juice concepts as well as supporting hundreds of people all over the world launch and scale successful juice businesses, acai bowl businesses, healthy food service cafes, and more. All the information on this channel is coming from this wealth of experience. Throw an invitation, press the like button. If you like the video now, I promise you're gonna like it more. And if you don't for any reason, you can always unpress the like button. You can retract your like if you decide, which won't happen, but that's the invitation for now. Now let's dive into this topic of conversation. So as this is a very popular statistic you may or may not be familiar with, but 60% of restaurants, and juice bars would be included in the restaurant category, 60% of these businesses fail within the first year. The other 20% fail within the first 5 years, right? And then the remaining 20% of businesses that quote unquote don't fail, a vast majority of those companies are not really thriving. They might be making just enough money to keep the lights on, pay their bills, but that isn't the fate that you want, which is obviously why you're watching this channel. I want to share with you in this video, what are the things that I really feel correspond to and create the reality of this 80% failure rate, and how you can avoid that, and what things you can do to make sure that you're not just making it, but you actually thrive. You have to think differently than the majority of people getting into this industry. And that is something that's hard to have an objective perspective on. I want to do my best to give you guys some way to view all of this, way to approach your business if you want to be in that select 10% of people that really, really thrive, right? And whatever that number is, but it's somewhere going to be in that range, give or take. So why do I feel, and what have I observed that contributes to the 80% failure rate of most restaurants? Starting with number one, the personality type of people that get into food service, oftentimes it's their first business and they're driven by simply passion, right? Just having a passion for the product, which is obviously important. I want you guys to have a passion. It's important. I'm sure everyone who's in this, watching this channel, the majority of you are really looking to help the world get healthy. And so having a passion is really, really critical to having that drive, that motivation to pursue this vision and overcome any adversity, to want to help people. But the problem is that, and the first issue that I see is people over-index, overemphasize, and overvalue passion as being the only thing that's important. Yes, people have this idea, I have to do things the right way, but my passion will bring me through any challenges and make me successful. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the way that it works. That is a beautiful dream. It's a beautiful idea, but it doesn't really make sense when the rubber hits the road, as they say. Because passion, like anything else, you could think about having the passion to do brain surgery on someone. If you don't know how to actually do brain surgery, your passion isn't going to get you very far, right? It's the will to do it, but it's not going to determine your success. If you want to be a brain surgeon, you have to know very intricately how the brain works, how everything comes together, how to perform the operation, which you need some passion to do it, but it's actually much less of a factor than most people would even assume. They know that that's not going to be the case. That's number one, is people usually approach this with very, very little know-how and skill, and they overemphasize their passion. What's the other issue? Okay, I would say reason number two. Number two is that people don't invest the necessary capital to really get their business started in the right way. And to a certain degree, I was a victim of this, or I was guilty of this, I'll say. And I'm very fortunate, right, that I'm part of that select 10% of people who in this industry succeed, and not only succeed, but thrive. And so why do people look to start these businesses with very, very little capital? All these things that I understand why these things make sense, but they've actually done studies that one of the biggest reasons for any business's failure, not just restaurants, but it's being underfunded. Because if you get to the point where you spend all this money and invest all this money in starting your business and then the doors open, but you can't keep the doors open for more than a month without making sure you're running profitable, well, guess what? Probably not enough time, probably not enough money to get you to the point where you can actually survive that first year and then 5 years and beyond, because you need that seed momentum. And so being underfunded is a really, really, really big issue. That's number 2. What's number 3 in my perspective? A lot of this comes down to mind state, okay? The way that you think about growing your business, that's what this channel is all about, is not just giving you strategies, but giving you the right frame of mind to think about approaching your company. Because as I often say in life and in business, if you knew everything that you needed to know in order to be successful, you would have been there already. And so there's a certain amount of humility that you need in order to approach any company to be, able to mold yourself, to learn, to do things the right way. And that is one of those things that I feel entrepreneurs are a paradox, in the sense that entrepreneurs and the personality type of an entrepreneur is very rebellious. We do things the way we want to do them. That's part of why we become business owners, is because we want to forge our own path. We don't want to have someone else dictate what we do and don't do. But then that sometimes comes at our own detriment, right? That becomes the things that actually inspires our failure, because we're not really humble enough to listen, to understand what we don't know, how we might be having blind spots, how we can do things differently. Usually there is a balance that we have to find in between trusting yourself, trusting your gut, but also being able to be humble enough to listen to other people, to learn, to really do things the right way. Especially when the ideas that are being presented to you really come against and challenge certain fundamental beliefs you have about how things are going to happen. That's number 3. Number 4, I would say, is related to number 3, but it's a little bit different, and that is not having the right qualities of leadership to really grow and build a business. Now, you are in the people business as much as you're selling a product. Much of your success is going to come down to how good you are with your customers, and I would say even more importantly, because you can kind of avoid customer interactions as an owner, but really how good you are with your staff, because you can't avoid that. And a lot of people don't understand that being a leader is a quality that you either have or you have to develop. And I would say for sure for me in my life, I've always had leadership qualities, but coming up to the edge of my limitations with leadership and having to really grow and learn a lot more about how to communicate clearly, how to support people, how to listen to people, how to really guide people in a way that inspires them to work hard, diligently, with passion, with joy. All those things are very, very intricate and deep, and it requires a quality of character in yourself that people have to respect and be inspired by and admire. Otherwise, you end up having people who are good employees leave the business because they don't appreciate you in a certain way or respect you or admire you in a particular way. And so this is a quality that a lot of people, if you haven't managed large groups of people, you haven't been in deep leadership dimensions in your life, in any career, this is one of the things that you're going to be invited into. That's the 4th thing that I really see as a really big blind spot. What's number 5? Number 5 is messed up business partnerships. This is one of the biggest things that can ruin your business. I've seen people who are literally family members sue each other by the end of the failure of their business. And I remember having conversations with these clients early on and saying, hey, you guys got to get clear on your business relationship. Ask the hard questions now. Figure out what everyone is doing, what your strengths and weaknesses are. And the depth of what it means to have a good business partnership, I could talk about a lot. But that's just, I'll leave it at that, is just really understanding the importance of, if you are going to enter into a business partnership, this is very much like a marriage. You're getting into a contractual agreement, and your lives and your business are dependent on one another. So make sure you choose wisely, or explore how you can do it on your own. Because I'm not a proponent to say everyone has to have a business partner. I think in many ways, actually doing things on your own makes things faster, easier, and just better overall, if you can do it that way. And then the final thing that I'll say, which is connected also to the last one, but a little bit different again, is having deep self-awareness and positioning yourself in the company where you get to accentuate your zones of genius, your assets as a person, and you get to subsidize the things that you're not good at. So I'll give you an example to make this a little bit more tangible and grounded in. I meet many people who are business owners, and they say, yeah, I'm just not really good with numbers. I'm not a numbers person. That might be you. That might not be you. But guess what? The business doesn't care if you're a numbers person or not. The business has to be aware of its numbers. Whether you're the person doing it, you don't have to be that person. But your business requires that there are individuals or an individual who's really, really on top of the numbers. And so what happens is a lot of times because the financial component, the numbers of the business, other kind of administrative elements that have to happen in order for the business to run are there. And if you're not that kind of person, what do I see? A lot of people just avoid this thing. They just avoid it and they don't address it. And so what happens is the business suffers. Or on the opposite side, you have people whose personality types are more numbers driven. They're not very creative. And then the marketing suffers, the branding suffers. And a business is holistic. You have to look at the entire company and say, okay, from the back end to the front end, back end meaning operations, administration, right? And then the front end meaning marketing, branding, the face of the business, the presentation of the company. It's very rare that there's a person who's inspired by both of these things because personality types tend to lean in one direction or another, but not only inspired, but also good at these things. Very, very, very rare. And so doesn't mean you have to partner up with someone, but it does mean you have to invest in subsidizing your weaknesses and having that self-awareness to know, hey, look, I'm just not a numbers person. And I will have to go through the painful process of getting more familiar with my numbers, but it doesn't mean that I have to be the person that's doing the accounting, for example, or bookkeeping. I don't recommend that people do that, or constantly diving into all the percentages, but you have to have an overview. This is why we help our clients with these elements, doing their menu costing and everything else. So if you need support with these, reach out to me, Andrew at StartAJuiceBar.com. We can talk about how we can dive more deeply into it. But overall, you have to have that awareness of who you are and what your weaknesses or potential blind spots are, that the business doesn't suffer because of your lack of proficiency in certain areas, okay? So these are all the reasons I feel that people really fail in getting into restaurants. And this is related to a lot of different businesses. Restaurants just happen to be a little bit more dynamic when it comes to things like managing inventory with a fresh food product and so forth. But these core and fundamental things apply to a lot of startup entrepreneurs. So there is a lot more, and I can dive into each one of these in more detail, but I wanted to give you an overview. So what can you do to avoid this fate, right? You need to get perspective. That's the first and foremost thing. And I know that this channel is doing that, but also reach out to me, reach out to our team, discuss the ideas you have. Let's get some reflection on the way you're thinking about approaching your business, what things you may not know, because I have to use this analogy. If you were in a situation where you were going to go, let's say, travel through the Amazon jungle, and someone said, well, you can go by yourself, and 90% of the people who go by themselves, they die. Or you could go with a guide who's been doing this and living in the jungle and grew up there and has helped hundreds of people walk their way through the jungle. And yeah, 99% of the people who go through that process survive. But you are going to need to be humble and listen to this person, invest in their service and all those things. There is going to be a barrier to entry that you have to, in that situation, everyone would say, of course, I'm going to have a guide take me. I don't want to get bit by some random bug or have an animal attack me because that's my life. Now, granted, starting a business isn't life or death, but it is a very, very, very important thing. But for some reason, people think, you know what? Yeah, 80% of the people, 90% of the people, they fail, but I'm just going to do this whole thing on my own. It's not wise. It's not mature. And so you have to think about probabilities, right? What can you learn? What's the value of the information? And also understand, like I said in the very beginning, there's a spectrum to success. And so you also want to think, even if you did succeed, let's say you don't fail, but what is the opportunity cost of not being as successful as you could be? Because having a juice business that's clearing, let's say, $5,000 a month is very, very different than having a juice business that's clearing $50,000 a month. And we have clients whose stores are clearing $50,000 in a given month, right? And then they have multiple locations. I'm talking about with one store. So it's a totally different dimension, and you have to be willing and able and to realize what it takes to get to that next space and do things differently, do things that other people don't do. Think about it differently, right? Don't do the same thing everybody else does because your reason for failure is going to be very high. So those are the things. Hope this helps. Hope this helps you what you think about it. If you are serious, you really do want to be a part of that 10% of people who really thrive and succeed, reach out to me personally, Andrew at StartAJuiceBar.com. Hope this gives you a reasonable amount of caution when it comes to starting this business, but also keeps you inspired because you can do it. You can increase the probability of your success extremely by just doing things the right way. And as they say, success leaves clues. There is a map. It's not rocket science. And if you do things the right way, just like when it comes to engineering something, you want to build a car engine. If you build the car engine the right way, the car will work. Your business will work if you do things the right way. So know that the people who are doing well have figured it out, and they continue to repeat that pattern and continue to grow and continue to thrive. That's all for today. If you haven't pressed the like button yet, this is your last chance, and you don't want to regret it. You don't want to leave this video without pressing it. Press it. It's free. It's easy. It supports the channel. It also just inspires me to make more content like this. So if you do want to keep having me make videos that help you, please press the like button. Lastly, last couple of announcements. We have a podcast. If you didn't know we had a podcast, we have a podcast. A lot of people like listening to podcasts these days. It's called the Juice Bar Experts Podcast. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iTunes. And then lastly, follow us on Instagram. We have content we release multiple times a day there, exclusive giveaways. We've given away, courses. We've given away all kinds of stuff. So you want to make sure that you're following us there. And then you can even direct message us if you have questions and you want to jump on a call. That's another way to get a hold of us. That's all for today. Hope this is helpful. Sending you guys my love. Hope you're happy and healthy. See you at the next video. Hope you guys have been enjoying the video content. If you're inspired to learn even more about how to start your juice business from scratch, for you, we have a free ebook. It's called the 15 Steps to Starting Your Juice Business. And this is going to go through a high-level overview, through a step-by-step process on how you get your business off the ground. Everything from branding, menu development, finding the right location, and more. This is going to be a clear roadmap so you know how to go from where you are all the way to opening your store. If you want to go even deeper, we've also created an online course. It's called the Juice Bar Master Blueprint. This is going to go into great depth on everything from how do you put together and think about recipe development? How do you cost out your menu and what's the math around it? What equipment do you need? How do you design your store? How do you find the right location? And so much more. I know you're going to find a lot of value out of both of these. There's links in the description below. So I hope to see you guys at the next video, and enjoy.